Thanks and welcome to join me on the news. I'm Kejang Henry Atimbe in Douala. Let's flag off with our top stories. Origin of the second disaster in 3 years is yet to be determined. And criminality on the rise as men of the underworld target residents in Yaoundé for end-of-year harvest. A notorious gang has been presented to the public by gendarmerie officers. And the 650 News takes a look at intellectual property rights as a law on the epiphany of digital age is on course. So those were our top stories. My pleasure to welcome you on the 650 News. I'm Kejang Henry Atimbe. Get to us on our social media platforms on Canal International, on YouTube, as well as on Facebook. And now let's flag up from BAMENDA Northwest region of the country, where some traders in my 4 market in Quen, BAMENDA, are still in agony after blistering fire ravaged their shops over the weekend. Though the origin of the disaster, this is the second in 3 years, is not known, authorities say that there is a befitting structure that is coming up soon for the people of that particular environment. Our Northwest Chief Correspondent, Annie Collins, with the details.
While flames have ravaged 10 shops at the My 4 market in Quen, BAMENDA 3 subdivision. Eyewitnesses say the fire broke out at about 11 p.m. on Saturday night. The neighborhood immediately went to work, struggling to put out the flames by breaking walls and cutting sheets of zinc to limit the spread.
All of us, with the use of the cutter, we ran down to market. We saw that 2 shops were already consumed. What we had to do was we have to block some doors. Then some youth climbed on the roof and started dismounting the zinc to eliminate the potential of the fire before the fire intervention came.
They were later joined by the Army Rescue Unit with conventional means.
I was inside the store when I was standing outside, so I did not have any assistance in controlling the system. So as I was just moving outside like that, some people were really taking some and going away.
Since 2002, when the market was created with 100 sheds to cater for these commercial needs of the population of My 4 its environs, the market has expanded with makeshift structures.
Yeah, we will begin with evaluating what has happened, and then from there we know what to do. We will think if we will rehabilitate the shops or we have to wait because this market is already under a project, a C2D project, and we are thinking that before the close of next year, there will be the construction of this market.
And we hope that government will be able to react promptly, especially in this time of festivities. We want to assure our compatriots, want to assure our fellow partners of the business community of this market that we will always stand by them in difficult and challenging moments like this.
If authorities are ruling out the hypothesis of a hidden hand, like was the case 3 years ago, they have placed the cause of this one at the doorsteps of a short circuit pending confirmation.
With our new colleagues reporting, the Chief Correspondent, and in Yaoundé, criminality is on the rise as men of the underworld are equally struggling to harvest from Yaoundé residents as end-of-year festivities are already around the corner. And so a notorious gang was recently presented by security operatives after they were harmed in one of their actions. Our correspondent in Yaoundé's
They are presumed armed robbers that have been harassing the Yaoundé city dwellers, doing away with different valuables after stabbing some of the victims. In their end-of-year move to minimize security threats during this festive period, the National Gendarmerie dismantled this gang at the Mokolo neighborhood with different stolen items such as motorbikes, telephones and car engines. The gang, highly equipped with dangerous weapons such as daggers, different hard drugs, over 500 grams of Indian hymns, marijuana and many other substances. And in the course of their operation on December 14, the forces of law and order equally stumbled on these culprits whom the gendarmerie elements have been searching for over 2 years for attempted murder. His victim was at the Yaoundé 1 Etat-Major Company this Monday to recount how he cheated death after being stabbed on the chest, the stomach and the neck by the heartless criminal. Presenting the men of the underworld to the public, the head of the squadron, Osmaila Haji, called on the population to collaborate frankly with the National Gendarmerie to uncover more of such cases still hidden within the different neighborhoods of the capital city.
High Social reporting. Conversely, authorities in Jimum Valleys in the Noon Division West region of the country have stepped up security as the end-of-year festivities draw closer. And so vigilante groups have been created to map out the corridors of the men of the underworld. Let's get a quick look at this situation with Christy Ari.
In Jimum, a district located in the Noon Division, a vigilante group has been installed by the divisional officer of Jimum in the Mayam and Mayum village, aiming to ensure security.
Je vous rappelle qu'à partir de ce jour, vous êtes reconnus et installés officiellement. Alors, mettez-vous au travail. Et je vous exhorte à respecter le règles de l'art.
The population of this locality has been victims of attacks perpetrated by armed men. This has caused many to abandon the village. By setting up the Vigilance Committee of Maya Village, the divisional officer calls hopes the situation returns to normal.
Menace persistante pour la sécurité des personnes et de leurs biens dans l'arrondissement de Jimon. Considérant la nécessité de formation en autodéfense des comités de vigilance dans les villages pour assister les forces de maintien de l'ordre dans la lutte contre la grande criminalité.
He is somebody of self-righteous and idealistic, and is also somebody of education and eloquence. He has a kind heart, because for you to become second class, you must release out.
In addition to security challenges, the people equally face problems relating to persistent outage. This blackout serves as a vector for men of the underworld to hit and run.
And member states of the Organization of Intellectual Property Rights are meeting in Douala, Cameroon to discuss the cultural content in the digital age, and especially as intellectual property our cultural aspects are not being guaranteed when the rights of these institutions are made known. Ambo Gladys Dibang tells us that this work will take place for 3 days.
The cultural and creative industry has the potential to contribute to sustainable development, but the institutional and legal frameworks to foster diversity of cultural expressions remain lacking in many countries. Member states of the African Intellectual Property Rights Organization are therefore meeting in Douala to harmonize strategies of exploiting cultural content in the digital age.
The consultants have prepared, has bookmarked what are successful stories, how to solve these problems in Africa, but also internationally, in order to come with a strategy, final strategy, harmonized, to be followed, if appropriate, by all OAPI member states. And this meeting here today is to discuss this strategy, to understand everybody is aligned with the strategy, and to define the actions, the next steps that the member states of the OAPI want to follow.
At the start of this regional workshop, it was revealed that Africa's share of the global creative economy is 1.5% and generates about 3 million jobs for young people aged between 15 and 29. The sector, therefore, offers high growth opportunities for developing and emerging countries.
We have youth who now can engage with a simple camera, with very minimum material to create content, cultural content. So this is an opportunity because we can also monetize this. So we have plenty of jobs for youth. We have monetization. We have branding, a number of cultural assets. So this is one asset.
For 3 days, beginning December 18, 2023, participants from member states of the Intellectual Property Rights Organization will also exchange and share experiences as well as good practices to ensure a technological turning point that would positively transform the cultural and creative industry in Africa.
And 700 million people across the world are suffering from acute food shortages, while 80% of the world's rural population are still to feed themselves. And so how to match food security and climate change is the focus of a discussion that is going on now in Douala, as experts in the Central African sub-region from the Congo Basin are now charting a way forward. Details in the following report. 8 billion people in the world do not have access to health, and more than 700 million are currently suffering from hunger, and 80% of the world's rural population are indirectly dependent on agri-food systems for their livelihood, a situation that is likely to worsen with climate change, which is a global embarrassment.
We have to be sure that all the boxes are ticked, and this is one of the boxes you mentioned. And it has to do also with, alerting the decision makers in terms of you guys, you need to put, some specific budget for that in terms of, the scenario building. What will happen in 5-10 years? And then how to be prepared, not to be, to get into the problem and then find a solution, but be prepared ahead.
Economic hardship, disruption of supply chain due to climate change is a great worry, and resilience is called for. The fight against climate change in application with the Paris Peace Agreement is at the focus of this regional workshop that is holding in Douala, Cameroon, organized by the Food and Agricultural Organization. Climate change issues are concerned, and experts are pushing to think forward. And the Executive Bureau of the Cameroon Association of English-Speaking Journalists, CAMASEARCH, has been given another 4-year term to rule that association during the elective General Assembly that took place on Saturday, last Saturday, December 16 in BAMENDA. The list led by incumbent Viban Jude actually won the day against a list led by Cham Victor, the contender. Details with our chief correspondent in the Northwest, Angie Collins.
Whereas their supporters were tearing themselves apart with invectives and rancor, the two protagonists at last Saturday's National Elective General Assembly of the Cameroon Association of English-Speaking Journalists, CAMASEARCH, expressed restraint. Incumbent Viban Jude and challenger Cham Victor were separated by a 25-vote margin after the 133 electors cast their votes in the BAMENDA 2023 conclave as declared by the 3-man Journalistic Electoral Commission. With 79 votes for Viban Jude and 54 for Cham Victor, the winner says CAMASEARCH must forge ahead during his next second 4-year mandate.
At the level of CAMASEARCH, and we are going to continue with that. We started giving CAMASEARCH a facelift. We started giving CAMASEARCH a lot of content.
And Chadians, sorry for that abrupt curtsy, that report, and Chadians have been voting for a referendum to put things straight with a new constitution that is upcoming. And so some of them have been meeting in Gaoundéré alongside the diaspora, or the Chadian diaspora, to chart a way forward for their country. Details in the following report with Cliquez Curls from our Gaudere or Adamawa correspondent.
This popular consultation will validate or reject the new constitution, but also allow them to choose the form of state they want by voting yes or no between a decentralized unitary state or federalism. The 5 polling stations in Gaudere opened at 7:15 a.m. These are the list. This one here is okay. After these clarifications, voting operations began at 7:30 a.m. with the first voters. Voters' turnout was already above average during the day. The situation improved in the early afternoon, particularly in Dang, where most voters were students. I invite all the Chadian youths based here in Gaudere, everywhere around the world, to vote massively. While awaiting the final results, the local organizing committee is pleased with the enthusiasm of the Chadians. We want to thank them because they have had this positive attitude externally and internally. They want the good of their country. They prioritize their country, and for that we appreciate them. The office closed at 7:00 p.m. The results are awaited after the closing of the polls.
Well, thanks very much, Cliquez, and 20 callings for the 6:50 news with me, Kejang Henry at Timbe, thanking you for being there with us. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me.